Hello and welcome to the Restricted Area Podcast, where we break down all things NBA and WNBA from this past week. As a reminder, you can hear this podcast the day before it can be seen on YouTube by checking out Amazon, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. As a reminder, I'm your host, Alex Perez, joined by producer Colton Smith. How we doing?
Doing pretty good. I just came home from a trip yesterday. Took a trip down to Atlanta, had a good time down there, and came back and got right back to work today. Got a game tomorrow. I'm working, so just been settling back in, getting things ready for tomorrow. But how you been?
I was definitely envious of that trip. Got to see some of the highlights and definitely jealous of that. But been good. Just getting ready for college basketball to be done. So the workload on my plate might get a little slimmer. So that's nice.
Hmm.
But been exciting watching that. We have a friend's wedding coming up this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yep.
And not too
Yep.
much else going on besides watching the NBA.
Absolutely. I will certainly be pulling up to the wedding, the Cream's wedding.
All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Another week in fantastic professional basketball. What stood out to you, Colton?
Spurs got to be the Spurs, undefeated in the month of February. It's 9-0 for those counting. All wins coming by 9 points or more. With
Mm.
the last four wins, not counting their game against Detroit last night, didn't get the math on that one. But before that game against Detroit, the best team in the league, which they did only beat by 11. Ooh, um, they did beat. They were beating teams by an average of 21.3 points per game. They have a 6 game winning streak against teams over 500. They have outscored their opponents by an average of 18.3 points in the paint over their 8 game winning streak. That was again not counting the Pistons game, but I think if I looked at the stats, it wouldn't really change that average much. Let's talk about why that is, because Victor Wembanyama is taking now 57% of his shots in the paint over the last 10 games. That is up from 33% the 8 games before that. And then Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, they still aren't making many threes, but they have shot a combined 69% nice from inside the arc, which I think certainly adds to the effect. What I feel like it is happening here is just kind of a shift in the offensive philosophy of the Spurs. They have some good 3 point shooters. Obviously, Harrison Barnes comes to mind amongst others, but not necessarily very efficient 3 point shooters. And they are pretty well just dominating. I mean, obviously, Ben Wimby's a good 3 point shooter as well, but they're kind of just taking advantage of his size and his ability in the paint and building on that. So I think this is definitely a good move. I think that they are seeing the success largely because of that. I'm curious. I think a team like the Pistons or the Thunder could counter that in the playoffs, but I also could see the Spurs. Maybe that's the difference of their series against the Thunder, because
Mhm.
Chet, I mean, is their best interior defender. He's better than Isaiah Hardenstein, but I don't see him putting up much a fight against a Wemby. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's definitely a strategic move that kind of the Thunder is a great 3 point shooting team, I guess, but I feel like they do have a lot of their shot diet in the inside as well. So um, I don't know. I think that would be for makes this shift in their offensive diet. I think definitely makes for a very interesting series if they keep that up through the playoffs. So
Yeah, the Spurs may have figured out how to play the Thunder game better than the Thunder. We will see. But like you mentioned, the guards are creating great looks from the mid range. And here's a secret about the NBA that's not so secret. They're going to guard the paint and they're going to guard the threes. If you can make the mid range, you got a successful team there. And that is what the Spurs have put together. It is nice that Victor figured out that he's taller than everybody, and there's nobody physical enough to really push him around in this day and age because it's stretch bigs who aren't that big. Um, I mean, strength wise. So I don't think Wimby's getting pushed around too much down there. He's going to be able to score in the paint regardless because he's crafty. He knows how to shoot, and he's very crafty with his footwork as well. So I'm excited to see where the Spurs team goes. But like you said, they have the recipe, and they might be cooking up something even better than OKC is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very curious. I'm very excited for that series for sure. Amongst
Oh,
other
you
series that
mentioned
may
Harrison
pop up
Barnes,
in
and
this
like I
upcoming
talked about
playoff.
him at the beginning of the season. Uh, he was lights out. He has definitely dipped a bunch, so that may have been part of the reason that they have shifted their focus to more inside the arc game. But I don't know for sure.
True. Yeah, that's a good point because I even noticed that, but I was just trying to think of a good 3-point shooter on their team, and Harrison Barnes just came to
He
mind.
was very solid at the
Uh,
beginning of the season. He's dipped a little bit though.
yeah, yeah, but that I think it's a lot. I don't think I'm necessarily saying anything nuanced here, but I do think it is something that I really, really wanted to bring up because the Spurs have been really fun to watch, and that Spurs
Extremely.
Pistons game was a blast to see. So, anyways, I wanted to also talk about the whole tanking situation because it's very closely affects me and my team, the Pacers. If y'all did not know, I think it was after the last episode recorded, but maybe it wasn't. But I know it's been about a week or so in that the Pacers and Jazz got hit with a hefty. The Jazz got a $500,000 fine. The Pacers only got slapped with a $100,000 fine. And essentially it was for tanking. I think the inciting incident is Aaron Nesmith, who was benched. And apparently the NBA conducted an investigation and did not feel that he should have been benched for that game and felt that was worth a $100,000 fine. Rick Carlisle said, believe yesterday was when he said it, but maybe earlier today, that there was a league lawyer that was doing an interview that was kind of unilaterally decided that Aaron Nesmith, who had been injured the night before and could not hold the ball, which maybe is an exaggeration on his part, should
Right.
have played in the game, which just seems ridiculous. And during the interview process, I was not in on it, but I heard details. We asked them if they wanted to talk to our doctors about it, because it's something that was documented by our doctors and trainers. They said no, they didn't need to. They talked to the doctors who did not examine their doctors who did not examine Aaron Nesmith, and we asked them if they wanted to talk to the kid, and they said no, they didn't need to. So this was shocking. This was shocking to me. And during the interview, they asked if we considered medicating him to play in a game when we were 30 games under 500. So I was very surprised. Obviously didn't agree with it. This is really the first time I've gone into any detail about it, but that was the deal. And so, yeah, that was it. So I feel like he definitely exaggerated perhaps a bit. And maybe this is all just a cover up and it's all true that Nesmith should have been playing. But I also don't understand why we're just now getting this deep. And I want to say
Hmm.
it is noteworthy that the NBA has released a statement on this description of the process, as they call it. They said that Coach Carlisle's description of the process that went into the decision to fine the Indiana Pacers is inaccurate. The league went on to say that an independent physician, I guess medical terms are hard for me to speak. That's why I never thought about being a doctor, led the medical review. In addition, the Pacers general manager and team's senior vice president, sports medicine and performance, were interviewed as a part of the process. The Pacers confirmed that it had provided all the information requested by the league, and the team reported that an interview with Coach Carlisle or team physician wasn't necessary. So I think there's a little bit of he said, she said going on. I don't maybe Carlisle overreached, but I don't think that's true. You mean to tell me you don't think the Pacers thought it was noteworthy to have their team physicians be brought into this investigation? You
Right.
don't think that, especially knowing that $100,000 is on the line, you don't think they would? Maybe Adam Silver said it wasn't necessary. Uh, Regardless, as a Pacers fan, I will easily take $100 or $100,000 fine to still have a chance at the top four. So you're going to have to take away that top four pick from us, which shit. We're going to have to delete this portion of the video. I don't want to give Adam Silver any ideas, but I think it's something that it's kind of ridiculous that we just kind of decided mid-season that like we don't want to do this anymore, despite the fact that Philadelphia brought this upon the league. OKC's done it. That's how they're where they're at right now. Also, great management, but partially some of the tanking to get that thing started. The Spurs did it a bit. Who else did it? Los Angeles did it. So a lot of people want to make the point that, oh, now that it's small market teams, it's a problem. Well, OKC's not a big market.
True.
I wouldn't really consider San Antonio to be that big of a market. They're great fan bases, but Pacers have a great fan base. Indiana loves
Hmm.
basketball. I don't know if we rank the highest in attendance per se, even when we're good, but that's more of a statement on the size of our stadium, which is still a great stadium, but maybe not necessarily the biggest stadium in the NBA. But I don't know. I find it to just be really weird for the NBA to just do this without really any. I feel like Adam Silver said some stuff like over the past couple of years, like we're gonna crack down on tanking, blah blah blah,
Right.
and never actually did anything. Mostly because it was probably the Clippers and other teams that were kind of partaking in that. Big market teams he wants to win, so perhaps that's the case. And now finally, after he said that, we have some small teams that are smaller market teams tanking that he doesn't want his prized possessions to end up at. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to make some real systematic changes in the league beyond just charging multi-billion-dollar companies a couple $100,000 to actually make change. That is simply just slapping on a penalty to make it sound like you're doing something about it.
Mm.
Let's do something about it. I am open. I think it'd be awesome to have that tournament for the number one pick, but I really question players playing for somebody to take their spot. That's
Right.
just a really weird concept. There's got to be some sort of incentive for them to want to play. Yeah, that's a really, because you probably would have players that just wouldn't want to, like, I don't want to lose my spot. I don't know. But
100%.
yes, but I do think the idea of having a competition for the number one pick be a thing. And I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think the best way would be relegation. That's why
Yeah.
Premier League teams have to, those teams at the bottom, they have to do everything. And like, this obviously isn't going to happen, but they have to put everything they can into staying above that cut of like 2 to 3 teams that get relegated if you don't stay above that. So that's just something that I don't, obviously can't happen, but I think is a system that I would really have loved to see American sports take, instead of the uh, borderline communism that we see today in the franchise system. But can't really fix that. But yeah, I think it's just absolutely insane what they did. But I'll take the $100,000 fine. That's not even a minimum contract to hopefully secure a top 4 pick. Keep at it. We're down like 13-20, I don't know, to the Sixers right now. So we're unfazed.
Yeah. Bring the Maine Lobsters up from the G League and relegate one of these terrible teams that nobody wants to watch.
Yeah. Dude, that place would be rocking, all like 5,000 seats in the
Yes, it would. But a couple points I want to hit on. You pretty much hit on everything. But if the NBA doesn't want this to happen, you shouldn't promote it. You shouldn't incentivize it, which they have done for years and years and years. As you talked about, which I didn't even think about because it goes that far back. Trust the process. The NBA literally promoted basically that whole campaign that the Sixers were running. So,
That's yeah.
uh, pretty bad look on you, league, to say we can't do this and then go back and say we were doing this and promoting it. So it's a terrible look for them. I don't think you all are even doing that bad. You all don't have Halliburton, and you all are just prepping for the future. That's good strategy. What the Utah Jazz are doing, that's diabolical. They're sending somebody out for surgery every week, maybe even every day, and that's wild thinking. That I feel like, I mean, it was punished, but again, $100,000 fine or something like that is just a slap on the wrist. So solutions have to be found, and they're not being found with $100,000 fines. I don't know if, like, I saw things like get rid of the draft altogether, make it about them being free agents. Don't know if that works, but we got to figure out some type of system that works because this is not working right now, and this is part of why people don't want to watch the NBA is because so many teams tank.
You bring that up, and that is a very like interesting concept of removing the draft and having it, but like I just feel like I don't know. I I want to say that that would still help. Like you wouldn't necessarily fully rule out the excuse me smaller teams there. I do worry about just being able to get the best players out of the draft for the more New York's, Los Angeles's. I feel like
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're seeing in the MLB right now with them not having to go through the draft process to bring in Japanese prospects. Um, but on the other side of it, I think the talent pool obviously have a lot less players in the NBA. The talent pool is much deeper in the NBA. Also, the way the game's played, I think, is obviously very different than MLB. But my point is,
right.
I think you're going to still have to have good coaching. The LA Dodgers, you could put anybody with half a baseball brain can will that team to a World Series right now. Uh, uh, and for NBA, I feel like even if you have five, we've seen it time and time again, you can have
Hmm.
top end talent, but necessarily, I mean, shit, the Thunder basically are an example of that. Like, yeah, you have all this talent, or not where I was going. My brain went in two ways. But my point here is, you can have a bunch of top end talent and not necessarily be unstoppable year in and year out as the Dodgers are in MLB. My point about the Thunder was the Thunder are an example of a team that has done a really good job. Doesn't have high cap space, but it's done a really good job at finding talent. So I think still at the end of the day, you got to find right talent that fits with your team. So I'm honestly open to it. I'm not against getting rid of the draft. I think it's at least worth a shot. And at the end of the day, if it sucks, we can just go back to it. That's where we're at in life. So
Exactly. You make your own
yeah,
rules. You can go back to it if you want to. So why not give everything a try, really, at this point? My only
yeah,
problem
but
with that is I feel like all the contracts for those incoming rookies, I guess, and free agents would be around the same range. So you really get into the where is the hot spot to go for free agents instead of is this the best fit for me or is this the most fair thing that's going on? Because then you may go back to the league being top heavy. Thankfully, like you mentioned, it's not like the MLB where they don't have a cap, but still, I feel like free agent destinations would play a big part in that. It may make the league top heavy for the teams that people don't like to watch win most of the time.
true.
And I will go ahead with my storylines. The first one I want to bring up is Benedict Mathurin. We talked about the Clippers a little bit earlier. I questioned if they were going to try to be competitive after trading Zubac. Uh, Boy, was I wrong. They are. Benedict Mathurin has been insane. 38 points in a win over Denver, 26 in a 1 point loss to the Lakers. And both were off the bench. And then most recently, 21 points versus Orlando. And I think the most impressive part of this is he's only making 1 3 a game. He's averaging 1 3 pointer made in all of these
Wow.
games and having these scoring outputs. So I really just wanted to pose the question to you. I know it's a short sample size, but do you think this team may be even better without Zubac and with Mathurin instead of James Harden?
It's a very small sample size, and I watched a little bit of the Lakers, like second quarter of the Lakers Clippers game, and to be honest, it was in the background first night of my time in Atlanta, so I wasn't too locked in. But what I did notice is Benedict Mathurin finally getting to flex his abilities. Like we've seen the flashes, as Ben Miller calls them, throughout his career, but getting the keys to what second or third option at this point, even though he's off the bench, I think is definitely doing well. In fact, I'd have to say I'd have to decide on I have to go with the side of this being more of a Benedict Mathurin can do that. Give it a couple weeks and the NBA adjusts type of deal,
Hmm.
as opposed to them being better.
Fair enough.
But I do I do see. I think this is a great fit for Bennedict Mathurin is the main point I want to say here.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure if I would go as far to say that they look better right now. But sometimes you get that new addition or so, and they're all fitting all together. But really, the long haul, maybe they're not quite prepared for. But I'm proven wrong on that. I must say
Yeah, you don't
because
have
I
the
want to
game
see
tape with a
Bennedict
new team.
Mathurin do well. Always been rooting for Mathurin to, I knew Pacers weren't really the place for him to be the player he could be, so I figured he was going to get traded anyways. So I'm very happy to see him doing well so far, and hopefully keeps it up. Because I mean, if he performs like this throughout the next season, I think he's an all-star candidate. But
I would
how
100%
many
agree.
players
Yeah.
can we say that about after 1 week? So.
Yeah, and the Clippers may still need something if Aspiration has anything to say about it. But good on him. He found a spot that works. But yeah, I would probably agree with you there. I don't think they're better. It may just start looking back to normal or back to what they were at the very least when Matherin gets a couple more games in. But we shall see. And my other thing that I wanted to talk about was Unrivaled, of course. My Unrivaled recap for the week. The dust has settled after the 1v1 action, but we're back to some still very fantastic play. A couple of the highlights from this week. The Phantom beat the Laces and the Battle of Top Teams. 4 of the 5 players for the Phantom scored in double digits, and the lowest scoring one had 9. So very close to all players that got in the game scoring double digits. Don't know how. Well, I do know how, but the Lunar Owls beat the Breeze. Um, the Lunar Owls, who I think this was their 3rd or 4th win of the very deep into the season now. But they got Skylar Diggins back, and that's why they won. She combined for 47 with Aaliyah Edwards, who has been fantastic for the Owls all season, but there's been no help. Now Skylar Diggins is back, and there's somebody who wants to prove a point, even if they're at the lowest in the standings. It's Skylar Diggins, and that they did. Breeze bounced back after that. They beat the Vinyl. Paige Beckers and Rakia Jackson combined for 47 themselves. So that was good to see that they were able to be competitive there. And the Rose beat the Laces. 38 for Chelsea Gray. And Angel Reese made her unrivaled debut this season. There have been some injuries, so she was able to come in and relieve them. 9 points and 15 rebounds. So her and Chelsea Gray together is going to be some exciting action to watch. And the biggest thing from the weekend, I feel like, is the Mist, who dominated the Breeze. I still feel like it's a good team despite their record. You don't play that many teams, the record can get looking pretty bad pretty quickly. But they beat the Breeze by 25 in a game where you try to reach a target score. So that's a little rough. But Alicia Gray, Stewie, Enrique combined for 71 of those 95 points. And let me tell you, Enrique was cooking at the end of that game. She looked Paige Beckers dead in her face and tried to set her on fire each and every time. So it was a very exciting game to watch. And the Mist may be making some noise about they deserve to win this championship. Playoffs are closing in. So this was very exciting. Another very exciting week of action and unrivaled. And we will go ahead and move on to our NBA power rankings, where we rank our top 5 teams after the most recent week in the association. Colton, who you got?
Yeah, so at number 5, I got the Cleveland Cavaliers sneaking back into the power rankings. They just knocked off the Knicks a couple days ago, so I'll go ahead and take them over the Knicks. They're about a game behind the Knicks in the standings, but since James Harden came back, only dropped 1 game, and that's to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think this is a very good stretch for the Cavs, who had a very ugly stretch early on in the year,
Mm-hmm.
seeing them build themselves back into the team we thought them being 4th in the standings with the chance to get as high as 2nd in the standings in this last stretch of the season. So great run from the Cavs there. I got the Celtics. Actually, fun fact, I have more Eastern Conference teams than Western Conference teams for the first time in power rankings history on this channel. I got the Celtics at number 4. Just kind of 2nd in the East, treading water. They've built that kind of 2nd in the East reputation. I don't think they've really done anything to lose it. Haven't done necessarily anything crazy over the past week, just kind of treading water for me, but keeping their spot at number 4. Kind of the same for OKC. Like, obviously, they've been at the top for a lot of the season, had some injuries that kind of had them slide down to the 3 spot for me. And then the 2 in front of them, I just think are playing better basketball right now. All it takes is, Shea back and some great things, for them to end up back up there, just turning back the wheel. But I think they're just kind of coasting at this point.
Hmm.
They got a pretty good. They're not necessarily trying to go out there and win 73 wins, get 74 wins anymore. So just making sure they're best prepared to play their best ball when the playoffs roll around, and I can respect that. They just better watch the tanking allegations, Detroit in second place for me. They were on top until they lost to the Spurs last night, and that's just the best team right now in the West, second in standing, but best team in the West right now going up against the best team in the East. Good old fashioned back and forth game. Spurs kind of pulled away there towards the end and got an 11-point win, but I got to give the Detroit Pistons their credit. Best record in the NBA. So I think they will pose a challenge for any team they face, including the Spurs, if that they do end up facing off in the NBA Finals, which is very much a possibility. Speaking of the Spurs, I said all I need to say about them earlier, but they are atop of my power rankings. 9 wins in a row, 9-1, of course, in their last 10. So great stretch for them in the season, and hopefully this is them figuring it out and not just a little fun stretch in their year. I really want them to be playing like OKC. I feel like it's building up for their best ball in April or May. I'm hoping that the Spurs are doing that as well, because I think that's great for the sport. It's going to make for some really great basketball. And yeah, the NBA is just better when the Spurs are rocking like this.
100%. Yeah. Our lists aren't that different. I would have had the Cavs on my list if they didn't lose to OKC without Shea, and I believe J-Dub was on the bench as well. So not a great look. So for number 5, I have the Nuggets, who are third in the West, 2-1 in the last 3. And oh yeah, they dropped to 157 points versus Portland. One of the most insane offensive outputs I've seen probably ever. So shout out to the Nuggets for being able to do that. Number 4, I have the Celtics, second in the East, only 1 loss in February, and they're second in opponents' points per game. That is really the recipe. How they have been so successful is their defense is, exhausting. It's suffocating, as the Lakers saw recently, and the Lakers are not seeing these top 5 power rankings for a long, long time. But anyways, enough of them. The Celtics have been playing great, and they are number 4 in my power rankings. For me, third is the Spurs, second in the West, as you mentioned, undefeated in February, seventh in opponents' points per game, so still very impressive on the defensive end. Maybe more offensive minded now than they have been in the past. And number 2, I have OKC, first in the West. Just got that win over Cleveland that we mentioned have been playing impressive, and without SGA and the other guys, so that's why they crossed up the Spurs on my list. They haven't had the best month, obviously, but haven't had SGA, so you have a reason to. They are first in the net still, though, so I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And Detroit, they top my list, first in the East. Now the least losses in the league, so I feel like it's time to dethrone OKC from that top spot, and I think this is my first one that I've been able to do that. So I'm not saying I'm proud, but Logan, sorry about you. Cade playing like an MVP. I know we talked about it before. I can't wait for Cade or Jaylen Brown to win MVP, and then all those rules to change really quick, because that and All NBA is something that the league's not going to take lightly. But
I didn't even think about the All NBA team. What like All NBA third's going to look like?
yeah, it's going to be something. That'll be fun to
Gonna
see.
get Benedict Mathurin on his second half of the season heater, getting an All NBA third nod.
It'll be one of the third teams of all time. That is for sure. Can't wait to see it, and can't wait to see how expeditiously the rules are changed after that. But yeah, those are my power rankings for this week. I did have 3 West teams, 2 East teams. Maybe the East will show me something eventually, but the West still wins out in these power rankings this week. And we will go ahead and move on to our NBA Pick'em, where we pick our winners for the biggest games in the association this week. The first one I have for us is Friday at 7 p.m. on ESPN. It's Cleveland at Detroit. Colton, who you got?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We got two. Yeah, obviously Detroit's been the best team in the East pretty well most of the season, but this new look Cavs team, maybe it's a little bit of the luck I was talking about with the Clippers with the new additions, but so far so good with them. So it'll be definitely a great matchup. I'm a rock with the Pistons though. I think they are the best team in the NBA. Well, maybe not the best. I think the Spurs are the best team in the NBA right now, but definitely the best team
Yeah.
in the East. I think they'll prove that on their home floor, especially after taking a loss to the Spurs. I think they will be very hungry to get that win against the Cavs. Give me Detroit in this one.
I will say that I think Cleveland will be able to keep Jalen Duren under control. And they have a great front court defensively and sometimes offensively. It goes to and fro sometimes. But I think the biggest difference will
Sure does.
obviously be the Kate Cunningham effect that we have already talked about. He may have a field day against the backcourt defense of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. So good luck, Cleveland. A mad and hungry Detroit team is coming your way. I think it's still close, but I think Detroit wins this one. And then matinee on Sunday, 1 p.m. on ABC, the Spurs at the Knicks.
Oh,
Colton, what you thinking?
good old days of the matinee on ABC, ESPN on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Many a great times to be had on that. But I am a Spurs versus the Knicks. I'm going to go ahead and take the Spurs here. Knicks have been looking a lot better, but I think the Spurs are just on another level. I don't see. I hope Cat's there, so that's a better game. If it's not Cat, then the Spurs might win by 30.
Yeah.
But I still don't see Cat posing much of a threat to Vic inside and this new look. And I just think the Spurs right now are going to be playing really good basketball until somebody figures out the answer, if anybody figures out the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they could very well end this season with just a handful of losses. We're in February. The season ends in about April. So that's how highly I feel about this kind of shift with the team.
Yeah, listen, the Spurs are hungry for that top spot in the West and maybe overall. We'll see. And I think New York is just happy right now to not be hitting the panic button anymore. So I think it's
Yeah.
2 very different teams right now, at least attitude wise. So that's why I'm going with the Spurs in this one. You also got to think in season tournament, they haven't forgot. So I think the Spurs will
True.
have a little extra motivation from that. And looking at this game, as you said, Cat versus Wemby will be must see television. Hopefully, we get to see that. But Brunson, obviously, the best guard in this game. But the depth of guards that the Spurs have may just overwhelm the Knicks because sometimes they can get a bit lackadaisical on offense and suffer some droughts. And I think the Spurs will make sure that happens. And I also have the Spurs in this one. Go get that redemption for that in season tournament, the most important tournament in the NBA season, as
Of
we all
course.
know. And we will go ahead and move on to our shooting star where we pick our baller of the week. Colton, who you got?
Give me LaMelo Ball, 37 points, 8 assists, or 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 10 3-pointers with just 3 quarters played. Didn't play in the fourth quarter at all. So that was against the Washington Wizards Sunday night. Got a nice win over them. They have cooled off since the All-Star break. That was their first win since the All-Star break. I mean, that was like their second or third game, but still, they kind of cooled down and still chilling in the play-in, but they need to win some of these winnable games coming up. They got the Pacers Bulls were 2 that I had circled as winnable games, so they need to keep the Bulls out of the play-in there. So they gotta get that win, and yeah, I'm very curious. It's a fun team to watch, but very streaky team to say the least. But LaMelo Ball, 37 points. You get my baller of the week.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball been wrecking defenses. You do not want to see him through traffic driving down the lane.
Mm-mm.
But mine, the Lakers organization. Tricked you. I will talk about my Lakers. 16-3 in clutch games so far this season, and undefeated after when they lead after the third quarter. That clutch record, the 16-3, by the way, good enough for second best all time. So they're doing some things. We'll see how the defense pans out in the playoffs, but right now we're winning the games that matter. So shout out to the Lakers. And another thing, probably the most impressive thing and the most bewildering thing, honestly, the Lakers had their first clear injury report for the first time since 2018. Yeah, this past week.
Oh my God.
If you're wondering what significant happened in 2018, it's when the Lakers signed LeBron James, LeBron Raymond James. He has had two instances of a clear injury report. Once basically the first game when he signed there, and this one.
Wow.
So again, tonight it went back to the regular thing. Jackson Hayes is out.
Well,
Not really missing much there, but yeah.
it helps not having Anthony Day-to-Day Davis on your team.
That is a very good point. But when we're dealing with load management, like we talked about earlier, it's kind of hard, I guess, to have anybody off the injury report, really. So I guess maybe we blame that instead of LeBron having the worst luck in ever since he's been a Laker. But anyways, good job, Lakers, for actually making me proud of you for once this season. But that will do it for this episode of the Restricted Area Podcast. Thanks to Golden for being on the show. Follow the show's YouTube at CX Restricted Area. Follow the CX crew on all socials at CX Pod Network. Follow me on Twitter at The Wheel Deal and Colton at Colt_45. That's 3 T's, by the way. Thanks for listening and watching. And until next week, like a Dr. J. Dunk, be smooth.